Families not only get more with the CMSD experience, they get everything they need. It begins with free, high-quality preschool and continues until graduates receive Say Yes to Education tuition scholarships. Along the way, students get more career planning, more voice in their own learning. They get more technology, arts, music, sports, and activities. Enroll now for the 2022-23 school year by going to choosecmsd.org or calling 216-838-3675. Families not only get more with the CMSD experience, they get everything they need. It begins with free, high-quality preschool and continues until graduates receive Say Yes to Education tuition scholarships. Along the way, students get more career planning, more voice in their own learning. They get more technology, arts, music, sports, and activities. Enroll now for the 2022-23 school year by going to choosecmsd.org or calling 216-838-3675. Families not only get more with the CMSD experience, they get everything they need. It begins with free, high-quality preschool and continues until graduates receive Say Yes to Education tuition scholarships. Along the way, students get more career planning, more voice in their own learning. They get more technology, arts, music, sports, and activities. Enroll now for the 2022-23 school year by going to choosecmsd.org or calling 216-838-3675. Good evening and welcome to a special edition of Talk to the CEO Live. I'm Darielle Snipes with the CMSD News Bureau. Tonight, Superintendent and CEO Eric Gordon will be answering your questions during this live broadcast. So here's what you need to do. All you need to do is go to Facebook, Twitter, or YouTube and put your question in the comments. And a member of our communications team will then monitor those questions and then send them to me so that I can ask Mr. Gordon. And so without further ado, let's introduce the man of the hour. Welcome.
Welcome, good to see you.
Nice to see you as well. So while we wait for questions to come in, let's just talk about some of the current events that have been happening this past week, the tragic events that happened out of John Adams College and Career Academy, where a student lost his life to gun violence at the bus stop off property. We do have some early questions that came in where people were asking, you know, why is there so little presence before and after school?
Yeah, so one of the challenges that we face is a coordination of making sure the city, RTA, and our police are able to be there. We have a very small mobile force, so we cannot be at every high school, but after school and before school is community time, and we need presence of our other law enforcement. We have been coordinating with RTA Police and CPD, and there will be increased presence, particularly at John Adams, not just in the coming days, but through the balance of this year. And we're really excited. Actually, today we were able to turn on the first integration at John Adams and John F. Kennedy, where the city can now actually see through the district's cameras, monitoring what's going on in communities outside of our buildings as an added protection as well. So you're going to see an increased presence, particularly at John Adams, and a combination of us, RTA, and the CPD. The other issue here, and RTA is being a great partner in helping us solve, is that the bus that this student was waiting for actually comes about 50 minutes after school, and so that leaves a long time for students outside of school. And so we're working with RTA to see if we can't get those routes adjusted so that the buses are coming to the school much more close to dismissal as another preventative measure.
Wonderful. Well, you know, and this is actually the third tragedy of a student as they were not by a school. And, you know, gun violence is not necessarily a CMSD problem. It's not at all. As you say, it's a community problem.
Well, yeah, we're not the only community, but we have a community with a gun crisis. As you said, this is the third student we've lost this year, you know, in front of a property. First at Glenville High School, then earlier last fall at Rhodes High School, a student on his way to school, and now this student who was waiting for his bus to go home. It's also not the only 3 students we've lost to gun violence. We've lost several others out into our community. So we really need a community response. Mayor Bibb has laid out a prevention framework. We are seeing better coordination of policing services, but this is going to require a community response. I also want to remind everyone that we internally, our buildings do still all have metal detectors to keep guns out of our buildings, book bag scanners and everything, and the best thing is see something, say something. If you know something's going on, make sure we know something's going on so that we can keep people safe inside the buildings while we continue to work on the broader community of what's happening when you're coming to school and when you're leaving school.
And speaking of prevention, gun violence is on the top of minds of our students as the Student Advisory Committee is working with Mayor Justin Bibb and his administration to come up with solutions for prevention. And then just this week, Junior Civics 2.0 had a gun violence symposium, and Civics 2.0 had that very same symposium late last year. I mean, so this is on their minds, and they do definitely want to bring awareness. What do you think about the fact that our students are at the forefront of trying to solve this problem?
Well, I think it's really important that our students have a way to voice, and in addition to everything you said, our bloggers and podcasters have also talked in this content. Look, this is a young adult problem. That means young adults know why it's happening and how we curb it. The issue will be whether the other adults, those of us who have the authority to make changes in the way we police, the way that we prevent, all of those things, listen. So I'm really pleased that our students are giving consistent voice to a real problem in our town, and I want to make sure that those that have the authority to take that voice and turn it to action, listen to them.
So we do have a question from Sophia. She was wondering if she can get her daughter a work permit now, and if so, who should she talk to about that?
Sure, work permits are issued at East Professional Center. She can go online and get the contact information, office hours, and that sort of thing, but we do issue work permits, and they are, the walk-in site is at East Professional Center on the corner of Superior and East 79th Street.
Wonderful. And then we also, your time is winding down as CEO, and so we do have a question that says, what projects are you seeing through while you are still CEO?
You know, I have 3 goals for this year and my final year. One is to continue to have a really strong academic year. Last year, as I hope our viewers know from our state report card, we were the top-rated urban district in Ohio. It doesn't mean we're the top of the state. We got a long way to go, but of the large urbans, we were #1. We had the 12th highest growth scores in the state, all school districts, right? So great things are happening in our classrooms and with our kids. I want to have a final really strong year for our community. #2, we launched our Planning and Career Exploration Work, or PACE, the companion to Say Yes to Education. It is in its first full year of implementation, and I want to ensure that it is a strong implementation and that it already has the infrastructure in place to carry on when I'm no longer here. And then the third is I am committed to a very strong transition from my leadership to the new CEO to make sure that he or she has what he or she needs, helping the board with that transition, the mayor with that transition, our internal community, with the goal that when this is done, people still have confidence in the district, still have confidence in their now new leader, and are ready to support that leader in continuing the work that I've had the honor to do over the last 16 years.
Wonderful. And speaking of your successor, the search is underway. The Board of Education hired Alma Advisory Group to conduct a nationwide search, and next week they will be having community meetings. And then today they released a survey, an online survey for community members to take part in. And how important do you think the public's input for the next CEO is?
Well, so I want to be very clear that I am not a part of the search because I shouldn't be.
Right.
But having said that, I know how very important the board believes public input is, transparency is, engagement is, and so I know over the last several weeks in preparing for this, all of the efforts that the board and the advisory group have been doing to make sure that people know about these opportunities, take advantage of these opportunities. The survey that went live today is translated in 5 languages online. They are paper, English, and Spanish if people want to print and submit them back in. They want surveys from students and parents and employees and community members and residents. Those community gatherings, they are free and open to the public. There will be free childcare, sign language interpreters, simultaneous language interpreters, food to bring people out. So the board is really committed to a very, very engaged and fully transparent process.
Wonderful. And just if you want more information about the CEO search, you can go to clevelandmetroschools.org/CEO search. And also, if you want to ask questions for this broadcast right now, please go to Facebook, Twitter, or YouTube and submit your questions, and a member of the communications team will send that question to me so I can ask Mr. Gordon. And speaking of these meetings, let's going back to that. So they're starting Tuesday, January 17th for 3 consecutive nights. Like you said, there's going to be free food, free childcare. They really want a robust conversation. And then what will be the next step after these conversations are happening? What is the board's next step once they get all this input?
So the input is being used, as I understand it, again, not part of the search itself, but the input is being used to create the final job description. And so it's my understanding that in early February, the ALMA advisory group will be reporting back to the board and community, here's what we heard, here were the general themes, here's how that then folds into the job description, so that as they post the job formally, the applicants, the new CEOs know what this community is expecting. And that will then drive applicant screening and all of the rest of the process.
So we do have a question. What do you feel is your greatest achievement as CEO?
Oh. Wow. You know, when I took this job in 2011, I set 3 personal goals. And I don't know that it's a single greatest achievement, but the first was to prove that we could improve Ohio's worst performing school district, and we were dead last. We weren't even close to the next district. As I mentioned earlier, we're the top rated urban, which is not enough. We need to keep going, but we're not dead last anymore, so met that goal. The second was to make sure that it mattered when we did, and what I mean by that is it does not matter to get a graduation rate from 52% to 81% if that graduation rate still keeps you out of college because you can't afford it. And so say yes to education, and the wraparound services and the last tuition scholarship for the next 25 years is goal number 2, right? And then the third is to disrupt the things that have caused it to be this hard for our kids and our families to access the education they deserve in the first place. That's poverty, right? Mm-hmm. That's racism. And so I would say we're making progress there. We have the wraparound services in place as an example. We have now the career planning work and a committed community around that, and with a race equity lens in it. So I would say I'm proud that I was able to accomplish work on my personal goals. The thing, though, that I will always just take away from this is that on June 30th, I will no longer be the CEO for 35,000 kids, but on July 1st, they will still be my 35,000 kids.
Yes, you are very dedicated, and your dedication, you know, people are noticing. You know, late last year, Mackenzie Scott, philanthropist, she donated $20 million unsolicited to CMSD and unrestricted, so it could be used any which way. And CMSD created the Get More Fund. So we do have a question from Facebook and said, you know, where is that money from philanthropists going, and what are some of the ways that money will be used this semester?
So I will share the short-term decisions, but I'm more excited about the long-term. So short-term, we have announced already that we're going to do some things like getting shot clocks and hoop shooters for our basketball teams like the suburban students have. That for our football teams, some of our football teams, we're getting the sideline play review that they do right on the sideline, like the suburban students have. We got Oculus devices for our students who are now taking virtual anatomy, so they're actually doing anatomy the way the Cleveland Clinic teaches it to their professionals, as an example. We got portable sound stages so that our All City Arts program has a more professional sound system as they go out into our community. So a lot of youth-facing things, travel for young people. Also for teachers, we want to continue to fund innovative projects that they're doing. So we have teachers that have submitted all kinds of really exciting things for their kids. We want to be able to do that. And then we want to make some one-time, really big improvements for our community. And one big one that we already announced is our 2 bus depots. These are the people that are up earliest, picking our kids up, then often the last ones going home. And in the middle, they're at the depots waiting in case we need to assign them out. Those depots have not been remodeled since probably the 70s. And so we're really excited to have worked already with bus drivers to start envisioning the remodeling of those, including workstations where they can use computers to upskill on our SkillSoft training platform, where soft seating, where they can, instead of right now they have literally banquet tables that they're sitting at. So those are some of the short term. What I'm really excited about, though, because I always want students to have the power. So we are working on identifying a strategy where a student from every one of our high schools will get actually a stipend out of the dollars to be the distribution committee, just as if they were a board member on the Cleveland Foundation or the Gunn Foundation, where they will screen the applications, they will determine which projects get funded, and we're scheduling the release of the money to be $400,000 a month for the 10-month school year for the next 5 years. So that means our students every month will sit and make decisions about how to distribute $400,000 worth of projects. So I'm really excited to be able to put the ownership right in the students' hands, because when we got it and we were told we could do anything we wanted with it, the only thing I want is for our students to get things that we can't right now give them.
Wow, that is exciting. I can't wait to see exactly what they choose.
Me too.
So we have another question from our viewers. How are you aiding teachers and staff in closing the gaps in early childhood education?
Yeah, so early childhood is a real challenge for us because our students do come to school often far behind their kindergarten readiness. The good news is we have lots of evidence over many years that our teachers are highly effective at closing that gap. And so where we typically start with under 50% of our students on track at kindergarten readiness, later at 3rd grade, 80 to 90% of them are promoting on into 4th grade against Ohio's measures. That's still not enough. So we've added a few things that I'm really excited about. One has already launched, and that is free online tutoring that you can actually book through Microsoft Teams, which is the platform kids already know, to talk to a CMSD teacher in 30-minute tutoring blocks Monday to Thursday. And then we have another layer behind that, which is a 24-hour, 7-day-a-week tutoring program called tutorme.com, that the tutor can say, you can keep coming and talking to me, but I can also assign you this extra support. So that's already there. We're also just about to pilot 2 different extra tutoring programs to support the classroom teacher. One of them is actually artificial intelligence, where students actually read their book right to their tablet, and the tablet has a person, it's called Amira, her name is Amira, who actually pauses and helps you with the word that you didn't get correct, or will give you a quick, tutoring on it, and has really high impact, and kids love it because it's like a computer game, right?
Oh, good.
And then the other is a higher dose for students who may be needing more support, where 15 minutes a day they will actually get onto a Zoom during the school day with live tutors that will help them to catch up their skill gap too. So we're really excited about that, fully launching into next year. We also, though, again, this is another community issue. We will not solve the literacy problem in our community if every year our preschool and kindergartners still come to school lacking kindergarten readiness skills. So that means as a community we have to stay focused on re-engaging families in high-quality preschool experiences so that we close the gap at the front end instead of every year starting with the same challenge and then having to solve it through the year.
And just on that point, we have high-quality 5-star preschool in our own building, so our parents should definitely take advantage of that.
Yeah, not only do we have 5-star preschools in our buildings, but we have led the charge for the creation of Pre-for-CLE. And Pre-for-CLE is a designation that people can look to say if they are a Pre-for-CLE partner, they are high quality. So it is a support to make sure that our private providers as well as the district are high quality and that we have plenty of seats for all of our families in the community. So if anyone out there has young children, go to preforclee.org and you can find those sites. But again, we as a community have to get serious about supporting our youngest children and closing these gaps instead of waiting until they get to school and every year then starting to solve the problem at kindergarten that lots of other communities have already been able to address before the kids arrive.
Right, and one more point, it's free.
And it's free.
Yes,
that's right.
The preschool is free, so definitely take advantage of it. So another viewer wants to know, how will you bring in new teachers and subs?
So we are fortunately doing far better than many of our peers. There is a national work shortage crisis out there, as I think everybody knows. We are really aggressive about teacher recruitment, including we just went after all of the December graduates coming out of the universities to hire into second semester. We also start hiring as early as possible and actually did an incentive to have our teachers let us know if this is their last year with the district, let us know by December and we won't go through the final evaluation process because you're not coming back. That's an incentive for people to let us know. And we put some financial incentives into the teacher contract for people to let us know. So we get good numbers early on. We also are working on a really robust parent-to-teacher program. We already have some graduates, and it's also part of our diversity core because we have a very diverse paraprofessional core, many of whom live in the city. So if we can move those paraprofessionals through a teacher prep program into the classroom, now we're diversifying as well as we fill spots. And we're looking at a substitute to teacher program because, again, a number of our substitutes who don't have their teaching credential but have the substitute license are people of color. And if we can get them from substitute license to teacher license, again, we fill that gap, right? So those are just some examples. We also really work hard on selling the quality of life in Cleveland so that people want to be here. It's not just about a job, it's about being part of a community. Mm-hmm. For substitutes, we now have a substitute pay bonus for our day-to-day substitutes that if they work 80% of the days that they could pick up, they get a bonus and then it escalates higher. We have that for paraprofessionals now, and the board just approved it for no, I should correct myself. I've put it before the board for approval for secretaries as well because that's another high need area for us. So lots of efforts going on to make sure we have a full workforce in place.
Wonderful. Another viewer is asking, when will school counselors return to pre-K through 8 buildings?
Yeah, that's a really big challenge for us from a financial perspective because the number of counselors we would need and the cost of salary and benefits is pretty prohibitive. So I can't say that, at least in my final days in my watch, that I'll be able to answer that question. The other challenge is having enough counselors. That's another high yield. What we do have, though, and it is not a substitute, so I'm not suggesting it is, every school has a family support specialist, and almost all of them are social workers. So not for academic counseling particularly, but for some of the social and emotional needs, we do have those supports in every building now.
Wonderful. So we have a question. I love this one because it's from Jane Addams High School graduate, class of '89. This is Angela. She says that her granddaughter is an 8th grader at Nathan Hale School. She is talented and gifted and also shows leadership skills and academically strives for success and is great playing basketball, football, and other sports. She's interested in playing. I want her to enroll in early college high school. As a grandmother, what can I do to register her and take her on a high school tour? And, you know, the portal closes for high school choice tomorrow at 5 p.m., so we need to get her going so that she can
so the first thing is if we have contact information, we should proactively go to grandma and get them connected. Anybody who is still looking to register should go to choosecmsd.org, and you can register electronically right into the portal. You can also call 838-ENRL or 838-ENROLL, and our specialists will help you there. Or you can come down here to 1111 Superior Avenue and meet face-to-face with an enrollment specialist. But again, the first window of the high school choice closes tomorrow, so let's make sure someone reaches out to this person. For visits, call the school. Our schools now have student ambassadors, and those student ambassadors actually receive a small stipend because, again, we're trying to create learn-to-earn opportunities. And so they will be there to take you through their school and show you what they're proud of and why you might want to go to that school.
Oh, and they are great salespeople.
Yes, well, who knows better than the students what's good about their school and what, frankly, needs to be improved.
Most definitely. We'll definitely get in contact with her. She did leave her information. Another viewer is asking, do you plan to offer teachers who teach in the remote school virtual academy some flexibility? They currently have to report to the building, and this person wants to know why.
So yes, we're going to have our faculty continue to report to a central center where they have the tools, the resources, the security of our internet network and all of those kinds of things. Also where they can have faculty meetings and their administration are there. So at this time we do not anticipate a work from home telework for those people.
And so I'm going to go to this one question and then we'll go back to John Adams because we're getting a lot of questions. But you know, January is Board Recognition Month, and our board is fabulous and has done great things to bring great opportunities to our students in and out of the classroom. And you've worked with many of them for many years. You know, as this is your last January Board Appreciation Recognition Month, what do you have to say to the board and everything they've done to help create your vision and help the students?
You know, I send a note to the board every Friday or Saturday, every weekend. And, you know, it's updating on the things that are going on and that sort of thing. But I say to the board every weekend, thank you for your leadership and thank you for your support. Our board is not only locally really strong and recognized, but Robert Hurd, our vice chair, is actually the outgoing president for 2 years for the Ohio School Boards Association. Dr. Lisa Thomas has served at the state and national level on board work. Mr. Hurd, again, is on the national level of the new version of the School Board Association called COSBA, and Denise Link is the national board member for the Council of Great City Schools representative. So these are board members. They do not get paid. This is an unpaid volunteer job that, in addition to the work they're doing right here at home, are having a state and national presence. And, oh, by the way, right now are leading a CEO search, which is adding them working every other Saturday morning from now through the completion of the search to make sure that we have the next CEO in place. So I just always offer gratitude and thanks for their leadership and support, often not seen by the public, but is real and important in this district.
How important do you think it is that some of our board members do sit on these other boards to bring attention to all the great things that are happening in an urban district like Cleveland?
I think it's exactly the opposite. I think they're sitting on those boards because people want to know the kinds of things that this board is leading in our community and sharing that with others. I think that it is a symbol of the true respect that these state and national organizations have for the Cleveland board and our school system.
Wonderful. So I want to return to the topic that we talked about at the beginning of this broadcast, which was the tragic homicide of a student outside of John Adams College and Career. Some of the questions are, the news stated that John Adams was closed due to staff absences. Have you gotten a pulse check on the staff there? What supports are in place?
Yeah, so we have worked with staff all day today. We had grief counselors reach out to all of our staff members who had called off absence to do a wellness check. We asked the administration to call all of the other faculty and do a check-in. We had a Zoom meeting where faculty could join and be briefed on, you know, what's going on, what's been going on the last several days. And we have a lot of supports teed up as we reopen tomorrow. So there will be continued grief counselors and psychologists on site for students, families, and staff members. We have 5 school psychologists and a number of grief counselors. We also have partnered with MyCom to bring a lot of community resources that will be available largely for students in the morning so that the staff have some extended time to work together and come back together as a staff. We are urging the school not to just jump back into academics, but really focus on relationships, rituals, and routines. We have very heightened police presence, so there's a physical safety there. We have faith leaders that are coming out to support school. And the key is we can't just do this tomorrow and then have a 3-day weekend and then pretend everything's fine on Tuesday. So we will, over the long weekend, adjust to see which of those services were used really effectively, which ones we can pivot to continue to provide supports as we move to a more normal setting again. And again, unfortunately, we've had to respond in similar ways when we had the tragedy at Rhodes High School, when faculty at Glenville High School during their professional development had a young man killed right in front of their building. We have a lot of people putting a lot of attention around the supports that the whole school community needs in order to be able to come back and to move past this and go through the grieving process and get back to a sense of normalcy. Routine matters. When you have these kinds of things, routine matters, and so we're really stressing putting the routines of the school back into place, but not the content of it. Just so that kids and adults get to see each other again and check in with each other, those kinds of things, and so that all of that will be happening as we reopen tomorrow.
So I know you already talked about this, but I think it's important to mention again, and a viewer asked, so I just want to mention it again, but please outline steps CMSD is taking to keep my child safe at school.
Yeah, so the in-school safety, we have very, very careful controls. We have the metal detectors, we have book bag scanners, we have cameras throughout our buildings that we monitor weekly to make sure that they're operating. So for example, at John Adams, 97% of the cameras were operating appropriately on the day of this incident. We have safety drills, so a large number of things that go on inside of the building. And the single best thing always is if you see something, say something. That has, in so many instances, helped us get in front of what could have otherwise been really problematic issues. The big issue we as a community have to wrestle with, CMSD is a part of it, but we all have to tackle, is what's going on in the community when I'm coming to school and when I'm going from school. And this was a going from school issue. And so how do we do that? Well, convening a collaborative of police, so CPD, now RTA police, because this was actually an RTA stop, and our police are coordinating a very much more monitored and visible response. We also just today were able to finish an integration that was already underway before this incident to integrate the John Adams camera system from the district into the CPD camera system. So now CPD can see what's happening on Martin Luther King and Corlett from the cameras that are on the outside of our buildings. We did that at JFK, and we're doing it at all of our high schools and then a few other sites, so 16 more sites across the city. And we worked with RTA to look to adjust the bus stop. This particular bus came 50 minutes after school ended, and that means students who need that bus were just hanging out, and that just presents opportunity for risk. And so RTA is working with us to see if we can't adjust that route so that it's only about 15 minutes, which is pretty reasonable when you think about a school dismissal. So we have to stay very clearly focused on the safety measures inside the school, and we have to, as a city, have a community response to a real crisis going on in this city with gun violence, and particularly among juveniles and young adults.
Wonderful. And I know that we're about to wrap this up, but I want to get this question in because it's from a student.
Oh, good.
It says, can we get more funding for our school sports?
So that's one of the things that we can do for the Mackenzie Scott gifts, and we actually made some of the first Mackenzie Scott gifts to expand resources for school sports. And so I don't know this student, but I hope the student will either submit an application when it's opportunity with his or her team, or maybe be one of the distribution committee members that gets to decide where that money goes.
Great. And as we wrap up, I just want to ask this final question, as this is technically your last semester as CEO. What do you hope to see? I know it was kind of a rough start with what happened this week, but what do you hope to see in this last final semester that you have?
Well, we had such a better start to this school year than last, where we're coming out of COVID and everything was just such in turmoil, and things were getting back to a sense of normalcy. We have had this tragedy and other tragedies in the community, so I hope to see that this one makes us think differently as a community, that it's a call to action that not again. But I also hope that as a school community, we just have a great final semester for me and a good second semester for all of our young people. Just today, I got the graduation schedule, which is my favorite time of year, and I'm able to go to almost every one of them this year. And so I'm really looking forward to watching so many young people who weren't even in preschool when I came to Cleveland cross the finish line in just a few months.
Wonderful. Well, thank you for your time and answering all the questions. Really appreciate it, Mr. Gordon.
Thank you, and thanks to everybody who's watching.
Yes, thank you. And thanks for watching this special edition of Talk to the CEO Live, and thanks for your questions. Have a good night.